For this video, I wanted to show the use of the copy function and how this works. This is kind of the result. I just have an image and I'm just copying sort of random strips from it and redisplaying them in kind of a random order as well. And I've controlled the frame rate so it's playing. It's intended to play slow. This gives me a chance to, if I like the image, I can use a keyboard a key press to save out a image and give it a unique name, so I can save multiple images. So I can just sit here and hit a button. If something comes up that I like and I want to save that frame, I can output that out and use it later. So let's take a look at the code for this. Go to stop. And so everything's kind of working the same, right? So we have a P image. We're loading that. I have some global variables. Inside the setup, I have a window size. I'm loading that image. I'm using the image mode here for the center. And here's where I really control the frame rate. So it's at basically every second. It's every 2 seconds. It's updating itself, so I'm moving it really slow. The default's like 60 frames a second if it has the processing power to do it. But definitely deliberate to try to slow that down to give me time to evaluate it. So everything else should look fairly similar to, at this point, these structures, these sort of nested for loops. Again, I have a grid system working here. So I'm doing the full length of the image, which is just 900 pixels long, and I'm doing little, just determined that that is kind of a nice number to have, just through experimentation. So I chose 30 pixels wide. So in this first one, I'm starting at 0, as long as the row is less than the height minus our little grid, and then we're updating it by that size as well. So every so this is taking the 900 pixels, and the X version here is taking essentially the columns. I'm moving it over the width, and I'm moving it by the grid X, which was the 30. So I'm taking these 30 by 900 strips, is essentially what I'm going to do. So the X, though, and a Y is another variable system that I've set up. Here the random wants to return float value, so I'm just casting this into a integer. So I'm starting with the integer. I have my parentheses. Inside of that, I have the random function, and then another parentheses, and this is the parameters for the random function. So anywhere between 0 and the width of the image, which is, let's say, 750 minus that grid X, minus the 30. And the same thing for Y, but we're going to do height instead of that. So we're just finding a random position, and for the X and Y, and we're going to use these coordinates of whatever it decides to find, and it's going to copy that. So here's the copy function. It's going to use our image, so I'm using the variable name for the P image that we declared. Here's our X and Y is where it's starting from. It's going to go 30 by the 900, and let's see, this is the source width and height. Then this is going to be the destination width and height, the column and row, so that's going to be how we're iterating through it. And this is also the destination width and height. So it's a little confusing. There's a lot of parameters in here. So this is the source image. This is your source image X and Y coordinates. This is your source image width and height that you want to select. And then it moves into, all right, now that you've copied it, where do you want to copy it to? The column and row here are going to be my X and Y coordinates for the destination of it, and then the width and height is going to be the same. And so that's what creates those strips. Then I have this sort of outside of the draw function here. There's the ending. So when I highlight on that, you see that this is highlighted up on top. So I know this is the closing brace for the draw function. So outside of the draw function, I have a key pressed function. And I'm looking for just a lowercase s here. So when that's hit, my counter variable is updated by 1. I'm saving the frame. I'm giving it a name of collage. So in the quotes, this will get printed. This is a string, so this will get printed, plus the variable, whatever this number is, plus then my file extension, the PNG, and again, that's in quotes, so I actually want that to be in the file name itself. The counter will be the variable that updates itself, so it starts at 1, and every time the key S is pressed, a frame will be saved out, and this counter will update itself. So if you don't have this in, the frames will just overwrite each other. So you only have one image, it'll be whatever the last one was. So the list allows me to save multiples. It's just a way to kind of iterate through and change the file naming structure of that. So kind of an interesting effect. I like how this is turning out. So again, I'll put this code up if you want. Again, you're going to have to put your own images in. You'll have to change some of the dimensions. But hopefully you get a chance to play around with it and see what you can come up with.